Hi, I'm Gwen Richardson, producer and host of the weekly live stream show Black Authors Matter TV. In addition to our weekly show, we compile how-to videos on a variety of book-related topics. This video is about how to market your book, how to get your book in front of more readers. You'll hear from four marketing experts on just how to do that. So enjoy this video and stay tuned for more information on book-related topics from Black Authors Matter TV.
Called the Branding Accelerator Program. And
Yes,
in that program, I'm guessing you help people to increase their brand. So that way they don't have to tell people how great they are. It's just going to generically
they have to live it.
So can you tell us a bit about that program?
One of the main things, yes, it's going to be relaunching again in the fall. And it's like a cross between mentoring, education, Q&A, coaching, because one program can't be everything for everybody because people need to have that one-on-one interaction. Everybody is different. Everybody has a different niche. So it'll be a membership program subscription. So I used to do PR and I would help an author for like 90 days and then it'll be like, bye. And then they would be like, okay, now what? Okay. So this is basically continue as long as the life of the book, which is forever, you can be in the program and I'll be there to answer questions, to give you training, to coach you, to give you advice, to pull your coattail to say, hey, that looks wrong. Quit spamming people, or this doesn't look right. You need to stop it. You need to quit taking photos in the car, whatever it is. I'm going to be that person. I'll tell some of my authors. I was like, listen, or I'll say, like, if you're going to do a Zoom, you need to clean up your bedroom, something like that. It's like, it's like I'm that mama. It's like a power program where it's part mama, part PR. Brought everything, because I know certain things. And I said, well, you want to get on this such and such show? I said, have you ever been in like the Houston Defender, or have you ever been in like different Black newspapers that live in Houston? Says, what? I've never seen that paper. I said, you've never seen the Houston Defender and you're Black and you live in Houston? Just certain things like that. Like, let's start understanding the media where you are. Like that part, let's start with that, and then they kind of move from there. And I always tell them, I says, if you want to be in the media, you want to be in PR, Ron, this, you've got to understand the media, you got to watch it, you got to know what's current, you can't, like, for instance, we can't go on a show and then say something tragic happens in the world and you know nothing about it. You have to, I don't say you have to be a news junkie, but you do have to know what's going on. Right.
Especially in your industry. I mean,
oh my God,
so many authors who don't know what's going on in their own industry.
They don't know the top people in their industry. They don't know the benchmarks in their industry.
Do you remember this incident that happened? I believe it was a couple years ago, where there was an author who released a book with a certain title, and then a more established author released the book around the same time with the same title. And the lesser known author decided to go on Twitter and talk about how people were copying her. And the more established, and the more established author was like, well, we just happen to come out with the same title, but I had never heard of this author.
Right. Well, here's something that some people may not realize, some author or just the general public. A title cannot be copyrighted. Right. A title of a book, a title of a movie, I don't think song titles. The content is what's copyrighted, not the title. Right. So you can have multiple books with the same title, and there's nothing that you can do other than to promote yours. Spend some time and effort and money, because Pam will tell you Pam's services are top. They're top of the line. But they're not, she doesn't do pro bono. And if she does, it's something she decides to do, not because somebody approached her and asked for pro bono.
And that's a good question, though, because what we found, at least I found it, especially when I started my company, and I'm sure you may have experienced it as well, Pam, and then probably you as well, Gwen, is that some people feel like you should be giving your services either for free or super cheap. And then no matter what price you give them, they have a cousin who could have done it for them. So
like the soul brother discount, right? Like the soul brother discount. I had someone the other day, I'm not going to say any names, and I hope they're not watching the live, but listen, they tracked me down, wanted to pick my brain, and of course they're friends. It's like I gave them some advice, and it's like, okay, but this is good. I said, but you need to really have a deep dive conversation with me and my partner. I said, and we will actually map out a strategy for you.
Yes.
Send her the information. The strategy call is only $450, but we lay out a strategy for you because this thing was so big, it's going to be huge, it's going to take over the world. And I said, well, if it's all that great, let's get a strategy together from two professionals. She has 20 years experience. I have 20 years experience. There's 40 years experience between the both of us. She sent me a note back. She says, thank you. I'm just going to call my cousin, like you said, who's a publicist. And I was like, okay, boo.
Yeah. And hopefully your cousin wants to be paid too. Because if your cousin is a professional, they should be paid too.
Right.
So PR is essential. Marketing is essential for any product, books included. Because if you don't have marketing, no one will know you're there. And you say you wrote this book and it's the best thing since sliced bread, everybody thinks theirs is. But if no one knows about it, it's really your efforts are almost in vain because you're invisible to the public.
Now, with that said, now Pam, you've had clients who've been featured on CNN, Tom Joyner Morning Show, Oprah Magazine, Black Enterprise, Publishers Weekly. So, can you name some? I know, and there are going to be some authors who feel like they're ready for that right away. They're ready to
know. So I work with TD Jakes. And so everybody thinks, I want to be where you put TD Jakes. Well, you don't have the brand as TD Jakes. Yeah. I want to be here, you know, New York Times. You don't have the brand that they have. You know, Dr. Sue J, I've worked with her. I've worked with TD Jakes. I work with Taffy Dollar. I work with Dr. Miles Monroe. A lot of the houses, Bishop Morton, where I say houses like Harvest House, Harrison House, Moody Press, Zondervan. Those are the houses that I worked for I don't know what that was, in a whole nother era, right? when there were a lot of publishing houses hiring publicists. Amazon kind of changed everything and made it so that self-published authors really came to the forefront, especially African-American authors. They published a lot themselves. So then I had a lot of authors, first-time authors, and I basically didn't do the same thing I did for the brand authors. I taught the new authors how to really position, promote, build their platform, like as a PR coach, and then they could spring and then do the PR and that sort of thing, but only after they have these other elements in place. Like they're not media ready at a certain point when you first start.
Now, one of the things that I've wanted to do with my clients is to help them to get media ready. I'll find some of the smaller talk shows, maybe some of the blog talk radio shows, to help them to refine their message. And so that way we'll get them to the bigger media outlets, they're ready for it. But as I mentioned earlier, sometimes people feel like they're already ready for the big time and they don't want to just kind of take those baby steps. So
those aren't the type of clients I really like working with. You know why? Because they're not coachable. Yeah. And they're going to think that they know everything. So those aren't the ones that you work with. The clients that are the best, when I say, okay, you know what, we're going to actually go to such and such high school. You are the speaker today in their auditorium, and I want you to talk about, and they'll say, okay, fine. And the next thing you know, if they have a good attitude about it, we'll go there, we'll make it a big thing, we'll take pictures, it'll be in the paper, then it'll grow from there. But they had the mindset like, I'm going to do what you tell me to do. It must be a method to the madness, and I'm going to do it. Because actually, when they're doing those other smaller interviews, I'm watching them. I'm seeing how they react. I'm seeing their attitude of how they're dealing with the media, how they're dealing with quote unquote fans. And if they have arrogance or attitude, that has to be worked out at the lower level, because when it gets at a certain level.
Tell us what a PR pro does.
A PR pro does a lot of things. One of the things that we do is really clarify for authors the difference between PR and marketing and advertising. And one of the things that's really important for authors to know is that we don't hit the ground running when you come, when we start the process, because how I get started is we need to do an inventory of where you are in your writing. How many books have you written? How many social media channels do you have? We talk about your genre a lot, because who are your most likely reader base? And so when we know that, we know where to put our emphasis on and what areas to put our emphasis on. So if you're writing a romance novel and you're looking at that demographic from age, let's say 25 to 54, we think about, well, what's the most likely social media channel that your reader base is on? And of course, these days you can almost default to Facebook for almost everything, even if there's been so many predictions of Facebook getting less and less followers. It's actually holding pretty steady overall. So we think about that. Where would your readers most likely be? Where are the venues for you to do readings at? So we really break down, we really do a heavy analytical inventory of you and your book. So how many followers do you have? Have you done any readings? Have you been on any media outlets? How long has your book been out? And so then we try to place you in places that will get you the most attention and ultimately increase your book sales. But there are things like just having your PR toolkit, a professional headshot, a professional bio synopsis, and a high quality book cover that a lot of people would be surprised. A lot of authors don't have that ready.
That headshot is truly, truly important, because I do events quite a bit. And when I ask an author to send me a headshot, often what I'll get is a bathroom selfie.
Or a selfie.
Bathroom selfie.
I'm like,
so
okay.
It's amazing that authors don't realize how many opportunities you can miss out on by not having a professional headshot. So I always tell authors, it's worth the investment. And during the pandemic, there are many photographers out here that are looking for work. Spend those dollars. It could be $50, $75. Get that professional headshot with a high resolution, and it will take you through a lot of things, whether it's a print publication or online. Do that, because it just changes the whole perception of you. You have a professional headshot. It says that you take your book and your book project seriously. So.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, because I have been on a flyer with other people who were going to be guest speakers at an event.
Right.
And I could tell that the other speakers did not send in a professional headshot just when all three of those photos are next to each other. And I had somebody who professionally took my photo, and sitting next to the other two, you could tell which one was a professional photo and which one wasn't. And I don't think people really understand the importance of the message that is sent when you don't send in a professional photo.
It's the same with your book cover. In my PR guide, I say, this is the case where your book will be judged by its cover. And so that's your representation of your book. If no one knows you and you don't have, a great writing portfolio like a Cherrie McMillan or Victoria Christopher Murphy, we don't know you. So all you have at that point in time is your book cover. And if someone turns to the back cover, your synopsis, your headshot, and your bio, and that's it. And you've probably got, in these times, you've probably got about 80 seconds, if that, to capture someone's attention. So that whole, again, PR toolkit is the key. You can have a fantastic book. Could be on the level of I don't know, Toni Morrison, but we don't know you, and we're just going by what we can see. And those are the things that are really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, what some people will say is that they don't need to pay for PR because they can do it themselves. So what, to me, it's like, when people say they can be their own lawyer, and
right.
and you know, I think they say you have a dummy for a client or something. If you're your own lawyer, it's kind of like that, because it's better for someone to pitch you than for you to pitch yourself. It might seem counterintuitive, but people look at you differently when you have a representative than they do when you're just do out there, especially at certain levels.
Oh yeah, and I call it kind of the Hollywood thing, because that's really where most people think about publicists. But it's as simple as, if I call a TV station, TV channel, and I say, hi, I'm a book publicist for Gwen Richardson. I'm calling on behalf of Gwen Richardson. She's got a fantastic new book out. It's very relevant to what's happening right now in the pandemic. And she's a great interviewee. She's excellent on camera, and her book content is great. The likelihood of you getting on that show is so much higher. One, I've had producers ask me things like I said, is this going to be a good interview? Because some authors have the tendency to be boring on TV. Has she done anything else? It's almost like I'm vouching for my client and saying they'll be good. Whereas if Gwen, for instance, you called yourself, how is the producer going to ask you, well, are you going to be a good interview? Or are you going to be boring?
And not to mention, it just sounds funny. Wait, can I be on your news show?
Right, you know what I mean? So
I would be a great guest for your next episode.
Exactly. So you can see where a producer or an editor might not want to talk to the client, particularly if they're unknown, because they can't really ask those type of questions of the client directly, but they could certainly ask me those questions. Also, when I'm trying to get you coverage, I'm creating the story for a lot of producers, which takes the edge off them. So I'm not just sending in a press release. I'm sending in a press release that says, for instance, I have a client who's written 2 STEM books for African-American children between 9 and 13. Okay. So I then, in that press release, I'm going to do research and say that based on the stats, many African-Americans, as they, in the workforce, don't have that STEM background. And because in the 21st century, that's going to be the majority of jobs, we're being left out. So we can start it as early as, children in schools. That's something that I'll be pitching, which gives the story, other than that, oh, here's a new book and you should cover it. It's not that simple. And a lot of authors think, well, it's a new book, it's exciting, but no one knows you. You don't have a name. So we're not actually pitching your book. We're pitching how your book ties in to something that's
I always say, since I was in the womb. I have loved books forever. Start reading at 4 and I have not stopped. As my mother said, you read everything. I read everything. I love books. I love talking about books, and I love helping authors promote their books. One of the things that I've learned over these last couple of years is that you are the promoter of your book. Nobody else can promote your book better than you. So that's one of the things that you have to learn how to do. And you see, the key word is learn. You do not come here knowing how to promote a book. That is not something you know how to do. Just like you had to learn how to write, because you didn't know how to write, you had to learn how to write. And so you have to learn how to promote. So what I tell people is find the stuff that helps you learn how to promote. Do those things. Talk to people. Talk to your fellow authors. Everybody has something that they do with their promotion that can help you, or that has helped them promote their books. I created a book, Building Online Relationships. It's my little book.
Okay.
In 2015, and it was my legacy of what I did to promote SOAR-MAG, because when I started SOAR-MAG, there was no social media. Our social media was blogs. That was the closest we got to social medias. Blogs, Yahoo groups. Remember those back then?
Yes. I was in
a lot of those Yahoo groups.
I started a Yahoo group. So we had Yahoo groups, we had forums, and we had lists. I don't even know if y'all know what lists are. I think they still got a couple of lists where you type something in an email and it goes out to a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that was a long time ago. And so what I did was I took I call it old school promotion before social media. And I talked about that, having your email list, writing articles, doing interviews for magazines and podcasts and radio shows. And I just talk a little bit about that in the book. And it just shows you how to do different things to promote yourself. And I call it a promotion plan in a book because if you take all 26 lessons in there, you can have 2 years of promotion. If you take a lesson every month and do it, implement it, you'll have your plan for 2 years.
Now you're active on social media, and I know one of your things, because you do a question of the day.
Mm-hmm.
and it's not necessarily book related, but a lot of times it is.
Yeah.
But what made you start doing that? What made you decide that was what you were going to do online, on social media?
Like I said, I always had groups and stuff, so I always started the conversations. And like I tell my clients, you start the conversation, and then if the people come back to you. So I always tell my clients, and there's a tip for you, to write down 31 questions to ask your readers. It could be about your books. It could be about their lives. You're getting to know them. And so they always say 31 questions. And I said, 31 questions, you got a question for every day for the month, even the 31 month.
Right.
And you asking a question, you're starting the conversation, and you're bringing the conversation to you. A lot of people get on social media and they read their feed and then they move on. They don't make comments. They don't say anything. And so I was trying to get my clients to move their feed. Because if you don't move your feed, social media pushes you down. So by me asking a question every day, Facebook or whatever platform I'm on asking this question, they see, okay, she's trying to engage with people. We're going to send people over.
I always tell people the very first thing when people come to me and say, well, I want to write a book. I'm like, particularly about my life. Okay, great. You want to write a book about your life. Why? And I'm not saying that to discourage people, but you have to know your why, and then ask yourself why 5 times before you get to the real root of the why you really want to write this book. Are you just writing a book to say you wrote a book, or are you writing it for legacy? Okay, but why? Why do you want to leave a legacy? Like, you got to keep asking yourself why at least 5 times before you get to the root. The other thing I tell people is, who is the book for and what problem does it solve? Because people don't just pay for books because they read a good story. No. People pay for books because it's either transformational or it solves a problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'd say it's either for entertainment or education or instruction. It's either, fiction is for entertainment, but nonfiction is normally for information. It's to learn something. But even within information, like you're saying.
But even in entertainment, there are underlying themes, there are underlying lessons.
Oh yeah.
We're learning something, we're hearing something. Like, if you turn on your spiritual eyes and ears, there's so much in everything that we think, oh, this is just a movie for entertainment. There's always like real life issues in movies and theater.
For sure.
Yeah.
And imagery. There's a spiritual side to films where, and I have a book, I have about 5 books where I have notebooks for each one, where the theme is, in research, as I see things, I put it in the book. And then when I get enough, then I pull the trigger on it. So but I have one about Hollywood that I haven't written yet, but I got a lot of material.
Yeah. And so the other thing I tell people, Gwen, is that's cool if you want to write about a portion of your life, like you said, those transformational moments, or something interesting. But the other thing I tell people is, you need to write the one book that makes you an expert. We're all an expert in something. For me, it just happens to be books. So I write a book about being an expert in books. But for other people, it may be baking cakes. It may be sewing. It may be finding your identity in Christ. It may be forgiveness. It may be, finding a husband. I don't know, whatever it is. There are singles coaches. There's a coach out there for any and everything you think you want to do, but they should have a book about it, because that's what makes you the expert. Like, what's your signature process that you can help people get the transformation that they're really looking for?
No, you're absolutely right. And I love that you said that. Write the book that's going to make you an expert. And even if you write a fiction book, you're still an expert at something. Michael Baisden really built his platform on relationships and being happily single. And he wrote fiction books. I think he may have had one nonfiction book, but most of his books were fiction. And
but they have relationships.
Right. And he built his platform.
Thank you for watching this how-to video, and I hope it was informative for you. To keep abreast of the other how-to videos we post, as well as our weekly live stream show, subscribe to our Black Authors Matter TV YouTube channel. Be encouraged and be blessed. Bye-bye.